Life circumstances are shaped not only by specific actions, but also by the nature of a person's thoughts. If you are hostile to the world, it will respond in kind. If you constantly express dissatisfaction, there will be more reasons for it. If negativity prevails in your attitude toward reality, then the world will show you its worst side. Conversely, a positive attitude will naturally change your life for the better. A person gets what they choose. This is reality, whether you like it or not. As long as your thoughts are more or less uniform in direction, you will be on the same line of life. As soon as the attitude towards reality changes in one direction or another, the parameters of mental radiation acquire new characteristics, and the material realization of the layer of your world shifts to another line. Events unfold on a different stage according to the parameters of your radiation. If the stage does not suit you, you will find it difficult to make a difference. When you encounter obstacles, you react negatively, expressing dissatisfaction or becoming discouraged. Your mental radiation reorganizes itself into a line where the obstacles become even greater. As a result, it turns out that life is rolling somewhere along an inclined plane. This process seems unmanageable, but in reality, it is you who, with your thoughts, direct your implementation to the problem areas of the space of variance. You believe that your actions are overcoming obstacles. In fact, it turns out that you get what you choose. You choose to deal with obstacles, and you get them in abundance. You are absorbed in thoughts of problems, and they are always present in your life. Your actions are aimed at changing the situation in the current lifeline. But the point is that you cannot change the script in the space of variance. You can only choose another one. When you try to change what you don't like about the script, you are thinking about what you don't like. Therefore, your choice is successfully implemented, and you get what you don't want. In this timeline, nothing can be changed. Similarly, while you are in a museum, you cannot remove or rebuild an exhibit that does not suit you. You are not the master here. But no one forbids you to turn around and go to another room to see what you like best. Of course, the transition to a lifeline where you have what you want does not happen simply by desire. Not all thoughts are subject to realization, and not all desires are fulfilled. And the point here is not the content of thoughts, but their quality. Just a dream or a desire is not a choice. Dreams do not come true. Certain conditions must be met, which you will learn about by reading this book. In the space of variance, there are an infinite number of lines of destiny for each person. We have no reason to be offended by our fate because we have the right to choose. Our only problem is that we don't know how to do it. The world manifests itself in all its diversity, as if it were created to please all tastes. Everyone can find in this world what their heart desires. Even in different directions of knowledge, the world turns to us with the side we want to see. For example, idealism claims that the world is an illusion, and the world agrees. Materialism claims the opposite, and the world has nothing against that either. People fight with each other, imposing their attitude toward the world on each other, and the world shows that they are both right. Isn't that wonderful? Anyone familiar with the principles of the Islamic religion knows what the words "a person's destiny is recorded in the book" mean. It means that destiny is predetermined and you cannot escape it. Similar statements are found in other religions. In fact, man's destiny is already predetermined. The mistake of religions lies only in the fact that there is not one variant of this destiny, but an infinite number. You cannot escape destiny, and this is true to a certain extent, because you cannot change the scenario of a variant. Fighting with the world around you to change your destiny is a very difficult and thankless task. There is no need to fight. You can simply choose the option you want. Of course, all this is very unusual and raises reasonable doubts. But I did not expect you to easily accept the variant model. After all, I myself did not believe until I was convinced that transurfing worked perfectly. It makes no sense to give preference to this or that model, just to achieve some kind of absolute truth. It is not the model itself that matters, but the practical result that it allows you to obtain. Different mathematical models can represent the same physical phenomenon in different ways. Wouldn't it be funny if experts in analytical geometry suddenly took up arms against mathematical analysis and began to prove that geometry is the only true mathematical discipline? Where is this space of variance? This question is very difficult to answer. From the point of view of our three-dimensional perception, we can say that it is everywhere and nowhere. Imagine an endless plane with no beginning and no end, on which two-dimensional men live. They do not know that a third dimension exists. It seems to them that this is the only world, and they cannot understand how there can be anything else outside of it. But nevertheless, we know that it is worth adding a third dimension to this model, and an infinite number of such planes can be created. So don't worry about the fact that we are unable to visualize how an infinite number of parallel worlds can exist alongside our world. It is difficult to believe in the reality of the existence of parallel worlds. But on the other hand, is it easy for you to believe in the theory of relativity, according to which with an increase in the speed of a body, its mass increases, its size decreases, and time slows down? It is not yet possible to verify this through personal experience. The important thing is not whether we understand it or not, but what practical benefit we can derive from it. In the face of infinity, arguing about the advantages of one model or another is simply ridiculous and petty. Imagine infinity in the direction of increasing distances. There is no end to the distance. Infinity towards decreasing distances, curiously, also has no end. We can only observe a limited portion of the visible universe. Both the telescope and the microscope have their limits. Infinity in the direction of the microcosm is no different. From infinity in the macrocosm, there is a hypothesis that the universe we see came into being as a result of the Big Bang. Since then, it has supposedly been expanding continuously. Bodies move in space at tremendous speed. But on the other hand, given the enormous distances involved, it seems to us that the expansion of the universe has been going on for a long time and slowly. It is also known that in a vacuum, at every moment, elementary particles are born out of nothing and immediately disappear. Given the relativity of space and time, nothing prevents us from considering each particle as a separate universe like ours. After all, we do not know the structure of elementary particles. For physicists, they first appear in the form of waves, then in the form of particles. Moving further and further into the microcosm, relative distances become equally enormous, and time for the internal observer slows down. For an external observer, our universe exists for an instant, like a particle born and extinguished in a vacuum. And for us, as internal observers, the universe lives for billions of years. When you take a sip of coffee, think, how many universes have you swallowed? An infinite set, because infinity is not divisible. Flying within the microworld is as far and as long as it is for the unlimited expanses of outer space. Time, like space, is infinite both forward and backward. Time intervals can be infinitely small and infinitely large. Any point on a time segment can be considered a reference point, on either side of which the infinity of time extends. Moving a reference point along a time span does not change anything ahead or behind. All this infinity of nested worlds exists simultaneously. The center of the universe is located simultaneously at every point, because the same infinity surrounds any point from any side, and all events exist simultaneously for the same reason that the center of the universe is located at any point at the same time. It is difficult to imagine, but it is also impossible to grasp infinity with a glance. No matter how much you move mentally through the universe, the same infinity extends beyond. There are even more confusing theories, according to which our visible universe becomes a finite sphere in a four-dimensional space. But this does not make it any easier, because theoretically, again, there can be an infinite number of dimensions. In modern science in general, there are many incomprehensible and inexplicable things. But this does not prevent us from reaping its fruits. Using the principles of transurfing, you will achieve amazing results. Let's agree right away not to torment ourselves with questions about why and how it works. With the same success, a child can ask a physicist, why do bodies attract each other? The scientist will answer, because the law of gravity is at work. This will be followed by a new question. Why does the law of gravity work? Why do bodies attract each other anyway? No answer. So let's leave this thankless task, explain something, and use the results of the variant model. Not everything is given to us to know and understand. The variant model suggests that a person creates their own destiny. However, the concept of destiny in transurfing differs from the generally known ones. What is the difference? The fact that you can choose your own happiness and not fight for it. Don't rush to immediately accept or reject the variant model. Just ask yourself one question. How much have you achieved in the fight against the world for your happiness? Everyone decides for themselves whether to continue their struggle in the same spirit or try another way. After all, you can spend your whole life fighting, but you will not achieve anything. Isn't it easier to make the world go to meet you? After all, it only does what you choose. The chosen order is always and unconditionally executed. But choice is not a desire, but something else that you must learn. Wishes come true only in fairy tales. It is not for nothing that the conviction has taken root that it is very difficult or impossible to fulfill wishes. We have just taken the first step in solving the watchman's riddle. Soon you will find out why wishes do not come true and dreams do not come true.